welcome to the XC70 V8 update. So right now we have successfully transferred over the steering rack from the XC70 over to the V8 subframe. We did that. On this engine here, we are about ready to tackle the valve cover gaskets and the front timing belt cover gasket. Even though this thing is a new engine or newer engine with very, very low miles, it's been sitting for many years and we just want to make sure and get that taken care of. The other thing that we did is we went ahead and removed the brake booster, which the 4 bolts up in there were, they were not fun, I'll tell you that, but we did get them out. And the reason why we're tackling a certain job right now is because the engine is out of the car and we got the booster out of the way. And I'll come over here and I'll let Ken explain on what we're tackling. So for anybody that's out there driving around in a P3, I initially, after buying this car and driving it, I heard a light whistling sound or whooshing sound that was constant coming near the air vent or whatnot. And we sell a little kit, and I'll let Ken explain what we're actually tackling while we go ahead and have everything out of the car now. We might as well do it.
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to fix this, there are people floating the rumor around that you can change this in the car, and that's just not gonna happen. There's no way. The booster has to come out on the car. If you feel you can get the booster out and on the workbench, at that point the job's not hard.
Yep.
The seal we're looking for is down under this gray boot, which the accordion boot just pulls up off the lip there, and this is the seal that goes bad. And you can actually see that the seal is really, really loose here. Yep. Already. There's slack, and you can see where it's been wearing off on the sliding surface here.
Right.
And these cars are infamous for this. It's very common for people to complain about this noise. So
yeah, kudos to the people out there that have bought this, right, Ken?
Yeah, it's not fun getting to it. And
I mean, we're blown away at how many of these seals that we carry. Actually, the seal is, I believe, the same for all the P2 chassis and the P3 chassis, right, Ken?
Mm-hmm.
Did we just increase the listings for the P3 from the P2 application?
It fits a ton of cars.
Yeah.
And it's not that difficult to put in once you get it all out on the bench. But yeah, getting it out on the bench is the fun part.
So initially, I heard that sound and I was like, okay, Ken, we got to tackle this. We sell the part. We've never done one before here, but we're like, yeah, it'll be easy. We can probably just replace it while the booster's in the car. Well, after today and what we're looking at here, there's no way you're going to replace that with the booster in the vehicle. You do have to take it out, and that was not... I mean, that's not for everybody. I'm just going to let people know that right now. That is not fun. But if you do have an air sound or a whooshing sound coming from the dash, or when you're just cruising under light throttle, and then when you hit the brake and it goes away, more likely it's this seal right here that we're getting ready to replace. So the kit comes with a new seal. It's got a little tiny piece of PCV pipe to help you put the seal on, and some lithium-based grease that goes on there just to make sure that it goes on without it hanging up or anything like that. But anyways, yeah, the instructions for this job shows us on the bench, which everybody's like, oh yeah, it's no problem. But yeah, I'm going to tell you, you got to be a little bit more ambitious to be able to get this booster out. We're lucky that we had the engine out of the car, so we were able to have myself and Bud on the inside of the vehicle while Ken was in here wrangling it out. Yeah. So next, after we get done putting the booster back in, we will go ahead and start tackling the valve cover gaskets and the front timing cover gasket while the engine is out of the vehicle as well. So as Ken's putting a new seal on this, for people that want to know how this thing works, this brake booster, this is the engine side down here. This is inside the car. This thing needs constant or equal pressure between it. You got the brake vacuum pump on the inside of the engine that's creating vacuum. When you push on the brake, that helps you give you the assist. And then when you lift on the brake, it needs to equalize itself so that way you're not applying the brakes the whole time. It's just a constant process that happens here. And when the seal is bad, basically you're hearing that pressure leaking back into the cabin of the vehicle. For somebody who's got really good ears, can hear it. So, eventually it can become a bigger problem. So if you do hear that sound, we definitely suggest trying this yourself or consulting with an independent to take this on. There we go. Brake booster is going back in. It's a lot easier with Ken standing in the engine compartment with the motor out of the way. And so we got the brake booster in here. We did not actually have to take the master cylinder and drain any of the hydraulics or anything like that out of it. It actually gives you a little bit more flexible lines to where we were able just to disconnect the 2 bolts on the master cylinder and move it out of the way. You're pretty happy about that, right?
Yeah, it just pulls over to the side a little bit, but like I said, that's with all this stuff out of here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd be able to do that with the engine in the place.
Yeah. But anyways, boosters in. Now it's time to go inside the car and put the 4 nuts back on and attach the push rod assembly to the brake pedal assembly, and then put the accelerator pedal back in.
The whole wiper assembly, the
Yeah.
ECU box, all this stuff.
Fun. Okay, here we are, another day working on the V8, and I'm out in the shop with Ken, Chris, Paul's upstairs working on some new parts that we've found that we need to add to our website through this project. But a lot of people are going to be asking us, why are we ripping the valve cover gaskets, and we're also doing the front timing cover as well. Why we would be doing that on a brand new engine. Well, we acquired this engine from Volvo many years ago, almost 12 years ago now, and we honestly didn't know. We knew it had really low miles on it, but we just didn't know how low. These engines are notorious for leaking on the valve covers, or they're known notoriously for leaking on the front timing cover as well. Ken, why don't you go ahead and explain a little bit about the timing cover? We'll start there.
Timing cover doesn't have one seal all the way around like you would think. There's a rubber seal down this side, there's a rubber seal down this side. It's glued where it joins the pan down here. There's separate rubber seals where the valve covers go on up here, and then you put little glue dobs where the rubber seals touch each other and everything. Right. This is just too many opportunities to fall apart.
Yeah, and we just thought that if we didn't do diligence and look at everything and just throw it into the vehicle, into our project car, which we will eventually sell someday, we wanted to make sure that whoever acquires it, that we wanted to give them confidence that we have gone through everything and double checked everything. After looking at it, I would say I probably have a little bit more confidence that we would have been okay, because this doesn't look like it's been ran virtually at all. But it is good that we're going through it, we're learning about it, and honestly it's just replacing O-rings and gaskets and seals and things like that. Ken, talk about the valve covers here. So we got the valve covers off. They're over here on the bench. To go ahead and just show everybody what we're doing here and why we're replacing them and what usually fails on these valve covers, because like I said, the V8s are known for having valve cover gasket issues and high mileage.
Cylinder heads run very hot on modern cars because the combustion chamber temperatures that they run.
Yep.
Most modern cars now just use a glued anaerobic surface here to seal them. This is kind of old school, the Yamaha V8, and it's got these rubber seals in here. Mm-hmm. And the rubber seals exposed to oil and that level of heat have a tendency to shrink and crack, and so they have a tendency to leak a lot. And these little rubber seals on each of the bolts obviously would have a tendency to leak as well, and these cars are famous for that. That's not as big a deal as the timing cover, because these you can actually do with some degree of simpleness while it's in the car. The timing cover is just a nightmare.
No. So how much fun was it? We had a lot of fun getting this off, right? The whole manifold with the fuel rail and everything like that. That was cool. So we've been trying to stay as organized as possible, get all the nuts and bolts and hardware that go with each plenum, the top of the plenum, valve covers, fuel rail and manifold. And next is going to be the front timing cover. We're waiting on a part to come in tomorrow morning so we can finish that up. I know it looks crazy, but it's a heck of a lot easier doing it outside of the car than inside the engine compartment, right, Ken?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, even though yeah, I mean, it would have been nice just to get started and put this in the vehicle and start plugging everything in, but we wanted to learn a little bit more about it and also see for ourselves, because we don't have a lot of experience with the V8, you know, some of the things that are common failures, and I think we're trying to tackle every one of those before we move forward on our project.
Look at what I found.
Okay, here we go. We got the front timing cover off. We got Paul over here cleaning all the surfaces after inspecting everything, and yeah, obviously this is a good learning curve for us, because we're seeing where some of the weak points were with this engine. It's definitely un-Volvo-like. This being built by Yamaha, actually. We found that they're doing a few things just a little unorthodox compared to what we're familiar with the Volvo engines, and why these leak the way that they do. So while Paul's cleaning that up, Ken, it's got the timing cover over here, and go ahead and just show a little bit about what you found.
This is a composite sealing system, and that's where they're getting in trouble here. So down each side, there's these rubber seals, which seems all very cool and all that, but they end at the top and the bottom. So you got a potential leak here. Also, there's this water jacket seal in the middle, and here's the V seal here. The cylinder head brake is right here, so there's some extra silicone they put in right here where the cylinder head come up to the back of this to keep them from leaking. Tops will leak. Also, every one of these holes, there's no rubber seal. There's just a bolt that goes through them. So if you don't get a good bead of, well, they use Yamabon when they assemble them, but they use RTV to reassemble them. If you don't get a good bead all the way around this and seal it when you install it, it's gonna, every one of these bolt holes is gonna seep. Yeah, if you have PCV issues, obviously, you know, this is a high horsepower engine, and the higher your horsepower, the more PCV you're gonna have trouble with. And if you get high PCV at all, it's just gonna blow past a seal like this. It's just a single spring seal, which is perfectly adequate for OE, but yeah, it's a matter of how well everything's operating together.
Right. So it's fun getting this all back together as Paul's prepping the surface. We'll get this all back together and reassemble everything, and hopefully we did as good of a job as anybody else, I think, putting this back together to keep the oil leaks from occurring on the V8. So see what happens. But otherwise, we got all the pieces on the website, right, Paul? The man's done all the research. And what did you create for the website there?
Putting all of this together means, in addition to looking at all of the different components that are involved here, we had a lot of the individual seals and gaskets for this engine, but getting our own hands on it and seeing what goes where, we've put together complete kits for the timing cover as well as for the valve covers. The timing cover on these engines is sandwiched between the oil pan down low and the valve cover up high. So if you're doing the timing cover, you also need to do the valve covers. So we have a kit builder that has just the valve covers if you need it, or the timing covers as well, which includes all of the gaskets that Ken mentioned on the outside and the inside, as well as a new front main seal and a little bit of RTV to make sure everything's buttoned up properly.
Nice. All right, here we go. Wrapping up episode 2. Here is our XC70 V8 project with the engine and everything completely out. One thing we did have to replace was the shifter linkage and the shift linkage cable. We had to get one from an S80 with the V8. The XC70 one would not reach the shifter linkage on the transmission of the V8 model over there. And it was something that we couldn't extend or modify. This is very proprietary, so it was not a fun job. While I was away at SEMA last week, Ken and Paul had to rip out the entire interior of the dash, the bracketry holding the dash, the climate control, the glove box, everything to access it. I believe that the shift linkage was the first thing that they put in this vehicle. So I heard it wasn't fun, but the guys got it done while I was away. We also swapped over steering racks. We did replace the inner and outer tie rods on this thing, new boots to make it nice and neat. We did button up the front timing cover, the cam cover gaskets, everything like that on the V8 project. Measured up the axles, we took out the suspension. We are replacing the suspension with new front suspension and the lift that's going to be going on this Overland project. We did put in a new radiator, but as you can see, we have the calipers hung properly over there, so that way everything's out of the way. So when we go to put the complete subframe and the V8 into this vehicle, we have a little bit of working room. So our next episode, we will start documenting and covering the install of all of this into this. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.